in the woods with Night Danger. It's been a little bit. Did you miss me? I think you did. I think I left a large, uncomfortable, maple leaf-shaped hole in your heart. But I'm back, at least for today. It's been a busy summer. It's going to continue to be a busy summer. And, but I wanted to take today, while the wife and kids are out of town. Oh, I'm like, that's the sun right there. Well, anyways, I wanted to take a chance to talk about a game that has consumed my existence. I've been in pursuit of an investigative game, a mystery game that meets all my needs, that adheres to my philosophy. I've been trying to design one. It hasn't been going well. And then I get my hands on Demon City by Zach S., who you may know from writing such excellent Lamentations of the Flame Princess products as Vornheim and Red and Pleasant Land. And I've always had a fascination with Zach's work because it's like what he did with Vornheim is what art punks have been trying to do since and not doing well. Because while there's a lot of garish, over-the-top style and flair and all this art and weird fonts and layout, Zach's books are highly functional. They're there to make you play the game. And I've always appreciated about that. They're not to be looked at. They are tools to be used for playing the game. And so I get my hand on Demon City. I have not had a chance to play it. So this initial review is not a review of Demon City, the RPG, because I haven't played it. You shouldn't review a game that you haven't played. But I will review the Game Master's Advice section and a chapter labeled Pitches and Sketches. And there's really three things about this extended section of the game that I want to cover. The first being what a breath of fresh air the metaphysics of the game are. And what I mean by that, there's actually a section labeled The Metaphysics of Demon City, but that's not actually really what I'm talking about. It's more that it is a modern urban horror game with sections written by Kenneth Haidt, who's done a lot of work with the Gumshoe crowd. And despite this pedigree of modern investigative horror, Demon City is not Lovecraftian. And I say that because there's actually a chapter labeled like Lovecraftian Adventure or Lovecraft City or whatever, where Ken Haidt talks about how the metaphysics of Lovecraftian gaming is not compatible with a lot of the worldview of Demon City, because the bad things in Demon City, the monsters, the horrors, are moral in nature. They are beings of actual evil in a world that assumes that evil not necessarily exists ontologically. Take it up with St. Thomas. But a world where evil is present, or rather, evil things are present, and what makes them evil is that they are opposed to and or deviated from that which is good. This is highlighted really well. There's the big section of all these monsters and horrors, and they're so good. And if you've even just, I encourage you, nab the PDF, if only for the section about werewolves or lycanthropes. Magnificent. Beautiful. But I digress. In the section of monsters and horrors, you have demons. And there's a great little blurb about the special abilities of a demon of, I think, the 10th order or whatever. It was to say Satan, like the devil. The devil is statted out. He's the biggest and baddest monster in the whole book, is the devil. And what can you do to protect yourself from the devil? And the answer is that his powers don't actually work on you as well if you are not a sinful person. Which is to say, the more sanctified, the more not sinful, which is to say, the more not evil, the more not corrupt, the more godly. Well, maybe not godly in the worldview of the author, but the more good, the more oriented towards the good, and the more aligned you are with the good you are, the less effective the powers of the devil are on you. There is an explicit moral dimension to basically all of the horrors in this book, and that's such a relief from the endless mountain of Lovecraftian, strictly materialist or nihilistic horror that we see all over the place. Like, how many times have you seen a vampire thing recently where the vampire laughs when presented with a crucifix? How many times have you encountered strictly like scientific or material explanations for big monsters or psychic phenomenon in horror? Like, but Demon City stands almost alone in a wave of generic SCP style Lovecraftian modern horror, and says, no, actually, the bad guys are bad because they are in league with the devil, who is real. That's so special. It's so rare, and it's my favorite type of horror. One of my favorite investigative horror movies of all time is The Ninth Gate with Johnny Depp, and it just the way that it's like this, you're just pulled towards this abject evil that is, again, not unknowable, not inscrutable, not so ancient and alien to humanity that it is beyond morality. It's like, no, he's a manifestation of evil and ill will towards humanity specifically. So that's the first thing, first big glowing thumbs up from me about Demon City. And this isn't to say that like the author is on some like Christian moral crusade. I would say that is almost certainly not the case. I suspect that Zach's idea of what constitutes a moral person in contrast to a sinful person is different than mine. But that's fine, actually. Where we can find common ground and where we align is that there is such a thing as good and bad. Yeah, very refreshing. Or at the very least, within the frame of this book, there is such a thing as good and bad. First thing out of the way, metaphysics. Second thing that I want to kind of gush about, the GM advice section, the game master running the game section of the book. It's about a quarter of the book's length. It's spectacular, and a big part of it is that it's a lot like the AD&D Dungeon Master's Guide. High praise coming from me if you know anything. Which is that the Game Master section, the host section, he uses the term host, which actually I kind of like, because as a little sidebar, host, as opposed to referee or judge or Game Master, host implies that you have organized the event and you are facilitating the event from a social perspective. You are informing people of what they're here for, and you are gathering them and mediating them and ensuring that they have an experience curated by you. And I really like that kind of pro-social and that implied in-person thing. Like, yes, you could totally run Demon City online, but I really like the kind of the implied language of gathering physically with other people. Anyways, in the host section, you have some of the best advice for mysteries, for investigations ever, and not just in terms of like planning the adventure or like structuring it. Like, he does something that I'm quite fond of, which is almost looking at an investigation like a dungeon, where you have a series of rooms that are connected in different ways, and you can move among them, and it's not necessarily linear, but it can be kind of linear. It can move towards a specific point or move in multiple directions. He has a whole chapter, or not chapter, but a couple pages on building conspiracies, like how to build your first conspiracy. He breaks down the I go, you go kind of flow that you see in a lot of classic detective novels, like The Maltese Falcon, like Sam Spade. He goes and he finds some dirt on the bad guys, and then they find him and they knock him out, or they rob his apartment or whatever. And it's kind of this, you let every time the players like make a big push and achieve something in figuring out what's going on with the horror, or take moves against the horror to defeat it, have it smack them back in some way, or attack them, or target them, and kind of it's just back and forth of not of combat like initiative, like I attack and then you attack, but rather just a flow of who's on the back foot in a given moment through play. In a given, scene is a word I use hesitantly, but I guess it works kind of. So you have all these different structures for mysteries and advice on how to do them, and then just pages and pages and pages of little details about elements of life that you can build mysteries out of. It's just an inspiration machine. These are for example, there's a 2-page spread about what it's like and what goes on in the running of a political campaign. Like, hey, you could probably get pretty close to a political candidate simply by showing up and volunteering for their campaign team, because campaigns are always short-staffed and they rely a lot on volunteer efforts. And like those little two-page spread about political campaigns, or homelessness, or a little 1-page blurb about like how does law and order work in the EU. And these are really useful if you read a lot of mystery or detective fiction. You'll notice on like crime fiction, knowing a lot about a particular field, a little particular slice of reality. Like maybe it's a type of employment, or maybe it's the culture of a certain social strata. Knowing a lot about that, like knowing more about that than your reader, lets you build something that's really interesting and engaging. You see this all the time. Like Double Indemnity works really, really well because the author took the time to make sure to include lots of very believable and intricate stuff about kind of the behind the scenes of the insurance business and the life insurance business. That sort of intimate knowledge in a particular field is really, really usable, and you just kind of condense as much information about that into a little slice as you possibly can. And so now you've got this all of these little slices that you can pull from, both as a game master but also as a player. There's a whole again, a 2-page section on like how do people do research. Often you'll hear complaints from players like, I'm not a detective, I don't know how to find this stuff, or I'm not an investigator. And so it can be tempting to just like slap a skill check on that, but just have them read this little 2-page section, and it's like, hey, here's how libraries work, and here's how archives work, and here's, if you wanted to get information at City Hall, this is kind of the sort of thing you would do. And it enables a player to know how to play better at investigation, how to improve their skill, their player skill in investigation, which is a very OSR mindset, obviously, the idea of player skill versus character skill. And I like that because it's fun to solve mysteries. I don't play investigations to feel like a detective. I play investigations to investigate, to solve mysteries, to put 2 and 2 together. And so, like, I really like that there's not an intelligence stat. There's a knowledge stat of like fields that your character could plausibly conduct research in and get useful information out of. But there's no intelligence stat that lets you like roll to put 2 and 2 together, or roll to figure something out. No, you, the player, get down, take your notes, compare information, ask a lot of questions of NPCs, compare stories, and solve the mystery. Do the thing that the game is asking you to do. And it's a philosophy that I don't see a lot. A lot of mystery games, as I've complained before, either are there to try and create the feeling of an investigation without actually doing any investigating, or the investigating is just kind of feeding the characters a mountain of clues to push them towards the conclusion that you want them to arrive at, which I also don't care for. So that's those are the first 2 things. One, the metaphysics is refreshing in an ocean of Lovecraftian. I'm not going to say slop. There's lots of really good Lovecraftian stuff. I'm listening to the works of Lovecraft at work right now. I get a lot of audiobooks in. And yeah, I like Lovecraft, but it's a breath of fresh air. Two, the Game Master section is phenomenal, and then there's this next uh, spot called pitches and sketches. The pitches are a set of like, hey, here's how you would tweak the rules to change the genre from like a modern investigative horror to something a little different. Like, here's if you wanted to do a Stranger Things setup and play as kids. Here are the rules. Like, kids cannot clear stress during downtime by doing drugs, because just simply getting a hold of drugs is stressful when you're underage. Here are some variant rules for like The Thing, where if you're a bunch of specialists in a very isolated area, like behind enemy lines in a war zone or at an Antarctic research base, here's a set of rules if everybody is a monster. Like monsters fighting monsters, like Hellboy or something. Here's a set of rules for I think it's called Whiskey and Firearms, which is like basically like if you want to do almost more of like an action approach, where it's less about figuring out what the horror is and barely getting out alive, and it's more about like finding the monster and blowing a hole in his face with a 44. Here are the rules for that. If you want everyone to play cops, which I'm always a big fan of making my players play cops. So even without the system, even without the those are pitches, and then the sketches are like just like little 2-paragraph or 1-page or sometimes 2-page little setups, little prompt of like, hey, you might be able to build a mystery out of this. Like, here's something really weird going on with the mayor of your city, or here's something bizarre that's happening in the here's something funky going on with a witch or a small town or whatever. So you have kind of these springboards to go off of. You have these variant rules. You have just this huge glut of advice on investigation game and on horror. One of my favorite bits in the GM advice section is actually, it's a 1-page thing with a picture of a monster. It's how to do a scary voice, and he just describes like the mouth mechanics of doing like a creepy voice if you ever need to do one. And you could do one or all or some of the techniques he describes, and you get some weird voices that you could use to unsettle your players. Nice touch. So you have those. And what was the third thing? I said I was going to do 3 things. What was the third thing? Just killed a mosquito as he was biting me, and now I got blood on my hand. Gross. What was it? Oh, yes! The final section. The final section of the book is, it's like the appendixes in the Dungeon Master's Guide, where you have like Appendix A and Appendix B and Appendix C, like all these tables to like generate stuff, either in play or ahead of time or to inspire you. And the tables, the whole 4th section of the book is all just tables, and they're phenomenal. A guy from the OSR scene who's kind of built his name on making some of the best random tables on the market, I'm not surprised in the slightest, but they're so good. And as a matter of fact, I'm actually not going to talk extensively about these random tables, because I think something I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to go and I'm going to stream tonight, probably around midnight, and I'm going to start the process of putting together an investigation scenario using the tables and using the tools present in Demon City. And I'd mentioned how cool the werewolf is, so I think we'll start building a investigative scenario about a werewolf, and we'll riff off of that on stream long form. And rather than me just gushing about the tables and talking about them, we'll use them in real time, and you'll see just how versatile and useful the generative and no to low prep mechanisms in this game are. And I will probably review the actual game system once I've run it. We have a really nice campaign happening with my players right now, and I don't want to interrupt it to do something else, so we're just going to hold off. And when I actually have run the game a bit and gotten a feel for it and formed my opinions on the system, then I'll talk about that. But even if you never actually play the system of Demon City, the book is worth its weight in gold in terms of how many tools it gives you for building really tight mystery scenarios, and just inspiring you, just getting those juices flowing of like, oh, I'm repeating myself. I'm trailing off. I'm so excited about this game. This is something really quite special. Zach and Ken and Mike Evans, I think is it Mike Evans? The DIY RPG guy. He did a bunch of DCC stuff. He's super cool. But they've put together something just really spectacular. And if you can afford a copy, you should get one, because the book is beautiful. But even if you can't, I would recommend picking up the PDF, because you're going to get, if you're at all interested in horror, you should get the PDF, because yeah, it's just good. It's just really good. And stay tuned later tonight. If you're awake, you can hang out, and I'm gonna start making a mystery, a conspiracy, something about a werewolf. This has been Night Danger in the Woods. Have a good weekend. Goodbye.